Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naranam Namaskritya Naram Chaivo Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudire Sunvato Sakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Udastaya Vadrani Vidunoti Chaisutam नष्टप्रायसु भद्रेषु नित्यं भगवत सेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणम् हरे कृष्ण एवरीवन. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Verse 1. This chapter is the descriptions of the characteristics of King Puranjana. Maitrevacha iti sandisya bhagavan barhi sadir abhipujitaha pasyatam rajaputranam tatrevantardadhe haraha. Synonyms. Maitreya Vacha. The great sage Maitreya continued to speak. Iti. Thus. Sandishya. Giving instruction. Bhagavan. The most powerful Lord. Barhisadehi. By the sons of King Barhishat. Abhipujitaha. Being worshipped. Pasyatam. While they were looking on. Rajaputranam. The sons of the king. Tatra. They are eva. Certainly. Antardadhe became invisible, Haraha, Lord Shiva. Translation and purport by Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The great sage Maitreya continued speaking to Vidura. My dear Vidura, in this way, Lord Shiva instructed the sons of King Barhishat. The sons of the king also worshipped Lord Shiva with great devotion and respect. Finally, Lord Shiva became invisible to the prince. Purport. This chapter contains a great lesson concerning the monarchical kingdom in the days of yore. When King Barhishat was considering retiring from the royal duties, he sent his sons to perform austerities in order to become perfect kings for the welfare of the citizens. At the same time, King Barhishat was being instructed by the great sage Narada about the material world and a living entity who wants to enjoy it. It is therefore very clear how the kings and princes were trained to take charge of a kingdom. Welfare activities for the benefit of the citizens were aimed at understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The human form of life is especially meant for understanding God, our relationship with Him, and our activities in His service. Because the kings took charge of the spiritual education of the citizens, both the king and the citizens were happy in Krishna consciousness. In this regard, we should remember that the monarchical hierarchy of Prachina Barhishat comes from Maharaj Dhruva, a great devotee of the Lord and a most celebrated disciple of Narada Muni. King Prachina Barhisat was then too much engaged in fruitive activities due to performing different types of yajnas. One can actually be promoted to higher planetary systems or to the heavenly kingdoms by performing various yajnas. But there is no question of liberation or going back home, back to Godhead. When the great sage Narada saw that a descendant of Maharaj Dhruva was being misled by fruitive activities, Narada took compassion upon him and personally came to instruct him about the ultimate benediction of life, Bhakti Yoga. How Narad Muni indirectly introduced the Bhakti Yoga system to King Prachinabarhishat is very interestingly described in this 25th chapter. Text 2. रुद्रगीतं भगवतः स्तोत्रं सर्वे प्रचेतसः जपन्तस्ते तपस्ते पूर्वर्षाणाम् अयुतं जले रुद्रगीतं भगवतः स्तोत्रं सर्वे प्रचेतसः जपन्तस्ते तपस्ते पूर्वर्षाणाम् अयुतं जले Synonyms Rudra Geetam, the song sung by Lord Shiva, Bhagavataha of the Lord, Stotram, prayer, Sarve, all, Prachetasaha, the prince known as Prachetas, Japantaha, reciting, Te, all of them, Tapaha, austerity, Tepuhu, executed, Varsanam, of years, Ayutam, 10,000, Jale, within the water. Translation and purport by Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All the Prachitas, prince, simply stood in the water for 10,000 years and recited the prayers given to them by Lord Shiva. Of course, in modern age, one may be amazed how the prince could stand in the water for 10,000 years. However, living within air or living within water is the same process. One simply has to learn how to do it. The aquatics live within water for their whole lifespan. Certain favorable conditions are created to enable them to live within water. In those days, however, people used to live for 100,000 years. Out of so many years, if one could spare 10,000 years for the sake of austerity, he would be assured of success in his future life. This was not very astonishing, although such a feat is impossible in this age. It was quite possible in Satyuga. End of purport. नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I'm seeking blessing from all assembled Vaishnavas and thank you for giving me the opportunity to read Srimad Bhagavatam to purify myself. I'll just summarize both the verses. So King Prachinavarhisat, his desire was by performing sacrifice, he will get promoted to heavenly planets. However, Narada Muni felt pity for the king. The king sent his sons to forest to perform penance, to control their mind and senses, to purify the heart, and to get darshan of Lord Vishnu and gain empowerment from Lord Vishnu, then come back to the kingdom and get married. He did good for his sons. He, like, very intelligently, he sent them to the forest. He did very good for his sons, but he himself becomes spiritually lethargic. So what's the difference between King Prachinabharishat and his sons? His sons become pure devotees known as Prachetas. Those who are intelligent and empowered by the Supreme Lord, they don't desire to go to the heaven or hell, because heaven and hell, they all are in the same universe. So if we do some punya karma, we'll go to heaven, and once it's all done, we have to again come back to the earthly planet. So this is described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 21. ते तां भुक्त्वा स्वर्गलोकं विशालां क्षिणे पुण्ये मर्त्यलोकं विशन्ति एवं त्रैधर्मम् अनुप्रापन्ना गतागतं कामकामलभन्ते. The meaning is, when they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their past activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the Three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. So, what's the difference between these higher planetary systems and our earthly planet? In the higher planetary system, there is longer duration of life, better facilities for sense enjoyment, but one cannot stay there forever. Once the resultant fruits of past activities is finished, we have to come back to this earth. So it's compared to in the that purport it's mentioned that it's compared to a Ferris wheel, which sometimes goes up and sometimes comes down. So instead of being elevated to the spiritual world from which there is no longer any possibility of coming down, one simply revolves in the cycle of birth and death on higher and lower planetary systems. One should better take to the spiritual world to enjoy an eternal life full of bliss and knowledge and never return to this miserable material existence. Narad Muni wanted him also to attain the supreme goal like his sons, and he taught him through the Puranjana Upakhana. Bhagavad Gita 18.37 it says, Yattadagre vishamiva pariname amritopam tat sukham sattvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. So, in the pursuit of self realization, one has to follow many rules and regulations to control the mind and the senses and to concentrate the mind on the self. All these procedures are very difficult, they're like bitter like poison. But if one is successful in following the regulations and comes to the transcendental position, he begins to drink real nectar and he enjoys life. We see the activities in the mode of goodness, they are really very painful at the beginning. For example, rising early in the morning and chanting the holy name, it's difficult because mind always provokes us. Still, like whenever we try to wake up early, our mind says, no, sleep for more time. No need to wake up. Like the mind says, you have worked so hard yesterday. You have to work again a whole day today. So see, everyone is sleeping. Wow, what is the need to get up so early? Like you keep on stopping the alarm. So the mind always says, okay, you deserve more sleep. But waking up early in the morning and doing chanting in Brahma Muhurta is the best practice. That's what we have to teach our mind. No doubt, it's painful at the beginning, like when we start, those who are not very much acquainted to rise early in the morning. It's very difficult at the beginning. They say like, why I wake up, why I have to do, I can do it in the later in the daytime. It's very difficult, but once we are like addicted to that practice, it will be like you'll feel like nectar. And the jiva is always struggling with the mind and the senses. The senses are always craving for pleasure, like the eyes always want to see some beautiful form, ears want some beautiful music, nose some good fragrance, then tongue, they always want to taste some good food, and skin always want a touch of opposite sex. So the more one indulges in pleasure, the more one suffers. Material pleasures initially look very nice, but later they are painful. That's what is mentioned in this like Bhagavad Gita 18.37. We can take an example, like sometimes we eat something very tasty and we keep on eating, then we just want to eat more and more. But what happened? The stomach will become upset and we get pain. That time we are thinking like, oh, why I was so greedy, why I ate more and more. So that's what, like at the beginning it was very it feels like, oh, I'm eating so delicious food, but later you see, if we don't control our tongue, that's what we have to suffer. So we have four restrictions like no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and those who are addicted to it, it's painful for them to follow these four regulative principles. People often do things for material pleasure because they are under ignorance or darkness. So we have to follow the four regulative principles and chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. The chanting of holy name is like taking a wet cloth and wiping a dusty mirror so we can see our face. Again in Bhagavad Gita, the next verse, 1838, Krishna says, Visayandriya Samayogat Yattad Agre Amrutapam Parinama Bishamiva Tatsukham Rajasam Smritam. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, it is said to be the end is said to be the nature of passion. There are so many beautiful examples we can see in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, recently in the Canto 9, I was reading about King Yayati, how he married to the daughter of Sukracharya named Devyani. And Devyani's friend Sarmisha is a very long story. I'll not go through the whole story, but the summary is like King Yati, he got married to Devyani, and there was a fight between Devyani and Sarmishta. So, because of that fight, Devyani demanded that her friend Sarmishta, she has to go with her as a maid servant to her like husband's house. So later the King Yati, he got cursed by Sukracharya because he beget a child in Sarmishta's home also. That's why he got cursed from his father-in-law Sukracharya, and he lost his youth. Again, he regained his youth from one of his son, so he can fulfill his lusty desires. But at the end, he became self-realized and narrated the story of his life only to his wife. Devyani, in the form of like a he goat and she goat. It was his story only. So he just repented it in a different way to his wife, like he got and she got, how they got married, and like involved in sense gratification, and he narrated the story. But later what happened, both he and his wife, they both become so much God realized, like, so they both become Krishna conscious. There is another chapter also about like King Pururava and Urvashi. Then Saubari Muni. That Canto 9 is filled with beautiful, like beautiful pastimes. Actually, all these things, they at the end, they are like teachings for us, that how they are to educate us, how we should not get too much attached for material enjoyment, because at the beginning everything seems very beautiful, but it becomes poisonous at the end. So we have to do little austerity in our life, so at the end we'll get some good results. So that's why we have to do everything in relation to Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 2.41, Vyavasayatmaka buddhir. Vyavasayatmaka buddhir means a strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life, which is called Vyavasayatmaka buddhi or Vyavasayatmaka intelligence. So Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 22.62, it states, श्रद्धा शब्दे विश्वास कहे सुदृढ़ निश्चया कृष्ण भक्ति कैले सर्व कर्म कृताया. श्रद्धा शब्दे विश्वास कहे सुदृढ़ निश्चया कृष्ण भक्ति कैले सर्व काम कृताया. Which means Shraddha is confident, firm faith that by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. Such faith is favorable to the discharge of devotional service. Devotional service should be done consciously, not blindly, starting from, like we can see, starting from buying flowers, vegetables, to making garlands, cooking, etc. Every activity can be dovetailed with Krishna. Krishna should be, and only Krishna should be put at the center of all activities. That's what Krishna consciousness is. We have to always engage our senses in Krishna's service. Like we see It mentioned Sarvopadi Binirmuktam Tatparatvana Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesa Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. What is that? One is freed from all material designations, and one's senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Lord. Again, so we have to engage our senses. Then next comes, we have to engage our mind in absorbing Krishna's name. Like every day we have to chant the holy name Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Next comes our intelligence. We have to engage our intelligence in reading scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we have to use our ego. We have to also use our ego. How we have to stay in the association of devotees. Sometimes, like we have to, whenever devotees give us feedback, we have to receive or accept the feedback in a positive way. So we can purify ego by taking their instructions. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 5.22, Ehi samsparsaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adi antavanta kaunteya nate suramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. That is the instruction of Narad Muni to King Prachinavarhisad also, that not to get indulged in ignorance. So we are the marginal potency of Krishna, and we have to use our minute independence very wisely, because we don't know after how many lifetimes we get this human form of life. So how much time we have to take full advantage of it in doing Krishna Bhakti, because we don't know laws of material nature will do what to us, and again what kind of life we will get. So let's dedicate our life in Krishna's service and be Krishna conscious, because that's what our identity is. Our real identity is Jivar Krishna Nityadasa. We are the eternal servants of Krishna. With that, I'll end. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity. Vanchakal